Hiya James, great to meet you yesterday. I hope you found the session as enjoyable and productive as I did, and I look forward to working with you again in the near future. Just to recap on the work that we did, and before we go into the meat and bones of the swing, what I'd like to do is just take a little look at you from face on here and point out a couple of things that we discussed, and we just skirted the edges on yesterday during the session. First of all, at setup, we want to get that golf club right in behind the golf ball. We can see here that historically you've always set up with the club well back from the ball at setup. I'd like to see you get that club in nice and snugly behind the golf ball. We then like to have the club in a position where it's pointing in the general direction at which we want the ball to start. So we've got to have a club face that's pointing a little bit to the right at setup, as opposed to pointing straight at your target. I took a photo of the way I had your mat set up towards the end of your session that I'll email across to you along with your flight scope data later today. So that's first thing, get the club in behind the ball, get the blade of the club in a more open position, or pointing right, should I say, at setup, and just be careful that your ball position doesn't creep back as your practice sessions progress. We then talked about the movement you make from face on during your takeaway. There's a tendency, because you focus so heavily on tilting to the left and getting that left shoulder to work down, as is prescribed in the stack and tilt swing pattern, there's a tendency to do it a little bit too much, and there's a little bit of a loss of height as you start your backswing. One of the other reasons this happens, and I'm just going to play this on, this is your end of session swing, but I just want to point something out. As you take the club away, there's a tendency to flex that right knee a little bit more as you do so. So halfway back, those knees are still very flexed here, whereas actually what we'd like to see is your knee, or your right knee, continuously flexing or continuously straightening as the club goes back. So once that right knee flexes at setup, let's get it straightening a little bit earlier during your takeaway. So just a couple of things that we didn't really go into in too much detail yesterday, but they are a little bit of food for thought once you get the hang of the bulk of your changes. The big issue I had at setup was the positioning of the shaft. Very, very low at setup. So if we take a line up from the shaft, run it through the body, we can see there we're hitting round about the groin area, a little bit low for somebody who wants to play a push draw. As a result, as you're coming into the downswing, that left arm flying wedge is got rid of, so you are casting the club, but if you watch it from face on here, the cast tends to be more with the left arm than the right. As you come into impact, you've maintained the wedge here quite nicely. And as I suggested, when you're doing your leverage drill, you need to pay a little bit more attention to what the left arm's doing rather than the right. As you can see there's a massive throw away of that left arm wedge. Shaft angle increases dramatically as you're coming into the golf ball, and anybody who does that coming from the inside is going to continue to hit out at the golf ball too much, exiting the golf, or exiting the body very high, and the rate of closure on the club face is going to increase. And you can see there, in an attempt to prevent the club digging in the ground, the spine angle raises, and as we talked about, when you see someone gaining so much height, normally that suggests that they aren't moving the hips laterally enough in the downswing. But if we see you move your knees laterally beautifully, you move that lower body forward nicely, you can see there the legs straightening and the butt tucking, good extension as you come through. So the big issue we've got is the movement of that shaft, brought about because the hands are a little bit too low at setup. With the hands as low as they are at setup, just take you down again to that start position, the takeaway tends to be quite manipulated. So you can see there, very much hands first, followed by the club head, resulting in a rolling of the shaft at that point. And then now on the downswing, you just go looking for a better shaft position. Left arm wedge thrown away, left arm and shaft very much in line at impact. What we've got you to work on now at setup is a much more, it's not a lot different, it feels a lot different, but when you actually look at it, it's not that big a change. We just give you the feeling that you're going to get the arms out in front of you a little bit more, as opposed to underneath you. You've got your club directly in behind the golf ball, and you've now got the club pointing in the general direction which we want the ball to start. That now allows you to make a much better first move away. You can see there, that's not as manufactured, not as hands first, club head getting left behind, much better first move, like we see here with Charlie Wee. Much better first move. One piece takeaway. Arms in. This move here, very manufactured. Arms in. Club head lagging way behind. A lot of hinge, a lot of angle between the left arm and the shaft, rather than what we see here, which is a little bit more natural, a little bit more what we would want to see. Arms in. As we now get to the top of the backswing, we're a little bit less bold at the top. There's a little bit less manipulation. And as you're coming into impact, you do still throw the wedge away in your left arm. But as we talked about, you need to let the dust settle on a few things. That position you're seeing there now is a direct result of the setup you've had and the compensations you've needed to make in that move on the second screen across. However, we've been working on trying to keep the arms straight through the hip area, and you can see as you do that, keeping the arms on the rib cage, breaking the finish early, means that everything must rotate through at the same sort of speed. And you can see now as a result, the arms and the club are exiting much lower than we see here on the second screen across, and we've got a much better rate of closure on the club face. If we look here now, we can see a little bit of the club face as opposed to looking more down the toe end of the golf club, so much less club face rotation through impact because of the improved move with the arms as they start to arc back on the inside. Here, in original swing, we get the arms climbing high. You can see the right arm now passing in front of your face almost, whereas here we get the arms exiting much more across, arcing back on the inside, and overall a much better looking follow through. So a few key things to work on. The straight arm drill is the one that you've really got to hammer. I'd rather see you in a couple of weeks down the line, or even a month down the line, having the ability to keep the arms straight through the hitting area, as opposed to this sort of chicken wing where the elbows are dividing that we see here on the far left. So as I said, super session, really enjoyed your company. It was great to work with someone who was enthusiastic and as keen as you are. Keep up the good work, and I look forward to seeing you again in a month or so's time with a dramatically improved arm swing. Good luck, and see you soon.